Hello and welcome to the Writer Albert Lanier channel and Outro, the show about shows, and the show talking about the shows that I've been on. And of course, here with another episode of this show about shows. And I'm talking this time about my recent appearance on the podcast Parallax Views. It's a show I've been on a number of times over the years, enjoy doing the show. And this time I was on to talk about my years of film critiquing, having been a film critic, having been a film reviewer, having covered film festivals, and discussing the state of movies on at theaters and in general, as well as the state of reviewing movies and critiquing movies also online. So it was quite a show. It was, of course, part of my promotion. If you're not aware of my new Substack, still kind of new. It's been around 3 months now, but my new Substack, Final Cut, which is all about the movies, all about films, and several articles already there. You can go to allanier.substack.com. That's allanier.substack.com. So you can go there. Also, you could check out my podcast, which is Final Cut as well. That's the title. And you can check that out at allanier.substack.com. So check out my articles. Also, check out my brand new podcast. My Substack's been out for 3 weeks. I'm sorry, for 3 months now. But my podcast has been out maybe about 3 weeks, or give or take or so. And 6 episodes, and recently check out my promos for those episodes right here on the Writer Albert Lanier channel, which is this channel, Writer Albert Lanier 3434. You can check that out, check out the promos, and go there again, allanier.substack.com. Anyway, enough of the promos. Ugh, I hate doing that. It's got to be done. Anyway, here to talk about Parallax Views, which is named, if you don't know this, the show Parallax Views is named after a movie, or at least has the same title as a movie from the 1970s, starring Warren Beatty as a journalist caught up in political conspiracy and machinations therein. And good movie, very good movie, and also a good title for a podcast. So like I said, I was recently on the Parallax Views podcast, and I was discussing my background as a film critic and film reviewer. I actually reviewed movies at film festivals. I primarily covered film festivals in Hawaii. So I covered like maybe a couple every year, two or three every year. I couldn't do much more than that because I was a full time working freelance writer and journalist. So I had to do other work. Most of my work was for magazines and newspapers and for other publications. And I never, I was fortunate to be able to kind of do it part time, meaning full film reviewing and critiquing part time. Um, for those of you who may be familiar with film websites, I was a contributor for the film website Ain't It Cool News. I was a contributor there for about 8 years, from 2002 to 2010. And I have a piece in my Substack called My Favorite Years. Yeah. So the piece is called My Favorite Years. And My Favorite Years deals with my time as a film critic and reviewer. Check it out. You know where, I've already told you. So I'm not going to repeat it again. I'll wait to the end of this episode to do all my promos again. But in any event, I had formally reviewed movies from about 2002 to 2010. I've always been a writer. This year is my 30th anniversary as a writer. In August, it will be my 30th anniversary formally. And I'm looking to possibly do something to commemorate that. I can't really talk too much about it now because I haven't put the, you know, gotten everything together for that. But I'll probably let people know later on about that. In any event, nice to be back at Parallax Views. It had been a little while since I had been there. And my background, talking about my background as a film critic and as a film reviewer, it was interesting because I actually covered my hometown festival, which was the Hawaii International Film Festival, for a number of years. And actually, my background is kind of different. A lot of people, if they know who I am, a lot of people don't know me. I'm not famous or anything. But people who do know me online, or people who are aware of me online, are aware of me as a writer. They're aware of me as a journalist. I was a freelance writer. I was a freelance journalist. And now I'm just a writer, still a ghostwriter. Um, but they're not aware of my background in regards to movies and film. When I was a kid, about 12, 13 years old, I actually learned filmmaking. I took a course at my local library, which I talk about in the episode of Parallax Views. And a teenager, I was going to film festivals. So I started going to a film festival when I was 15. And I started going consistently because I missed a year the following year, and consistently started going to film festivals from the time I was 17 to the time I was 23. So through high school and afterwards in college. So high school and college. And then in 1994, I started working as a reporter, started as a journalist, freelance journalist. And I covered my first film festival as a journalist in 1994. So it's interesting. I did tell you here that, of course, I started being a film critic and reviewer in 2002. But that wasn't the first time I had been covering film festivals as a writer. I've been covering them since the 90s. And so, in addition, I also went to festivals just as a regular film goer, but that kind of ended when I came back to Hawaii in the 90s because I was living in LA and in Seattle in the 90s, in the mid 90s. So I went to the Seattle Film Festival as a film goer. Went there both years, 2 years actually. And I went to the AFI in Los Angeles, the American Film Institute Film Festival. So I've been to those two film festivals, in addition to my hometown festival, the Hawaii International Film Festival, and some others. So I've been to a few fests, but mostly my involvement with film festivals or my dealing with film festivals was as a writer, was as a reporter, was initially as a film goer. So I made this kind of, I guess you could call it from caterpillar to butterfly transformation. Because I went from being somebody who just attended film festivals and just went there to watch movies. That's all I cared about. Can I another movie and another movie after that? Having 12-hour days where I worked not only going to screenings and watching movies, but also fitting in interviews with actors and directors and producers, and also going to parties. So I don't want to go too much into that. You can watch the episode um, and find out more about that. As for Ain't It Cool News, which is what I wrote for, I did that for about 8 years. Like I said, I went over to becoming a film reviewer and a film critic formally. It actually was a lot easier when I started out just as a journalist covering film festivals because all I had to do was a roundup. So I just had to do like one article. You know, I was watching all these movies and interviewing people, and all I had to do was put together one article and send it off. And so the early years actually of my covering film festivals were easy. It was so easy. And I made it harder on myself by, you know, because I was sending in other, during festivals when I was writing for Ain't It Cool and online. And when I was a film critic, I was sending in stuff during the festival, which was exhausting. But, but hey, it's the job. So, you got to do the job. But I did that. I stopped reviewing and being a film critic reviewing films and being a film critic in 2010. I address why I didn't do this in my article, My Favorite Years, which you can find on my Substack. So I won't go into that there, other than to say I was partly burned out. Um, I also kind of talk about the landscape, the critical landscape, the way things are in terms of film reviewers and critics now. I left the film critiquing and film reviewing business, if you could call it a business. I left that in 2010. I just came back to writing about film 2024 this year. And I didn't really know anything about movie channels on YouTube or film reviewers or movie reviewers on YouTube or film critics or movie critics on YouTube. And quite frankly, they're awful. They're terrible. I mean, what I see now is, I think I said this on the show, but I'll say it here too. I think the studios have won. When I say studios, I mean the major movie studios, the majors, as I call them also. Paramount and Universal and 20th Century Fox and Disney and MGM and all the others, they've won because I think what they've done is they've gotten these dinghies, these dorks, dinghies, and dumbasses, um, to go and just rant and rave about them. And it's very clear the studios are paying some of these people like they were a number of years ago, where they were paying people to pretend to be film critics and put up blurbs about movies. I believe that the studios are paying these people. The basically a number of these fans, not all of them, obviously, but the ones that are, what do they call it, film influencers or something along that line? Because I didn't know anything about movie talk or film talk or whatever it's called until maybe this year, and then about the landscape on YouTube last year. I started finding out, and it's utter and complete crap. As somebody who has been a writer for nearly 30 years and was a professional film critic and reviewer when I worked, the problem is the amateurization of the movies. I should say it's the amateurization of film criticism. What you have are a bunch of people who are not educated, not learned, not literate, possibly, not anything more than maybe not, and not probably up on film history or or the technical aspects of movies. Again, like I told you here, I learned about movies and making movies when I was a kid. I learned the basics about making movies when I was a kid. The shot lists, I storyboarded, I did all this stuff when I was 12, 13 years old. So my background is a technical background that I brought to reviewing. I didn't become a filmmaker, but I had the technical background to a basic technical background that filmmakers have, and of course greater than that. And I brought that to filmmaking. I brought that to film criticism and film reviewing. So that's the difference. I don't know what the backgrounds of these people are. Maybe they're security guards. Maybe they bag groceries. They got regular jobs that are, that's fine. But they're people who really don't know anything about the movies. And so we have a bunch of amateurs. We have a bunch of people. And then you have the controversial people who are nothing but right-wing wackos, like the critical drinker, who I call the critical stinker, Nerdrotic, and all these others. And it's just a mess. So that's the show. Check it out. You can check it out on YouTube at JG Michael's channel. That's the JG Michael channel on YouTube. That's Parallax Views. Again, you can listen to it on YouTube by going to the JG Michael channel, or you can go to parallaxviews.com. So go to the site parallaxviews.com, or you can check it out by going on YouTube to the J.G. Michael channel, and you can listen to my episode. All right. Thanks for watching. This has been Outro, the show about shows. Signing off. Oh, and save me an aisle seat. Bye, folks.